Hello, Melissa Crick here from the Field Podcast. We have ways to engage for today's episode with embracing kindness, patience, and tolerance with Arlene Miller. We talk a lot here on the Field Podcast. Let me start that over again. We talk about living out of our own expectations a lot here on the Field Podcast. But do you consider what expectations you put upon other people? Are they fair and reasonable? Are you making a quick judgment of someone else or what you expect from them to do for you, to show up for you? The work begins with us, and we should keep these thoughts in the back of our mind as we continue to grow and evolve. So just keep in mind, we want to be the ones to set our own expectations and communicate those to others. But it's easy to fall into the trap of then ourselves setting expectations for someone else. So if you don't know what their expectations are, rather than making assumptions, maybe ask them. Maybe they've never thought about the fact before that they need to communicate their own expectations to you. So we hope this helps you engage this week with our episode today, Embracing Kindness, Patience, and Tolerance with Arlene Miller. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hello and welcome to the Field Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Crook, and I'm here today with a new friend, Arlene Cohen Miller. And I met Arlene through our good friends at Podmatch, and I'm excited to share her voice today. She's got a rich background and history, both personally and then also what she offers professionally on multiple levels. She's got a heart for women, and you're going to see that unfold as we talk today and go through these talking points. But Arlene describes herself as authentic, compassionate, courageous, and loyal, and she referred to them as sacred qualities. And I love that way of thinking about our character traits. Arlene, welcome to the Field Podcast.
Thank you. I'm really grateful to be here.
I'm grateful to have you. Okay, let's get right into it. Talk to me about prioritizing self-care in your life. You've gone through various seasons where you've been a working mom and wife. You've been a single mom and working. You've been and then married again. And you've seen different iterations of what it looks like to try to balance taking care of yourself, showing up well for yourself, showing up well for others, and where we hear women talking about all the time, trying to balance it all, trying to make space for it all. And you're able to help people with that now. But talk to me about your journey and getting there and understanding that.
Yeah, I just want to point out one thing with our words, and our words are so powerful. If we try to do something, we're going to be left trying. So it's really important to choose and find a way to make it happen. You know, even if our self-care is like 15 minutes a day or whatever it is, or we have that time for ourselves, we have to really choose it. And not just try, because otherwise, like you said, we'll be left trying. And lots of times we don't hear how we're talking to ourselves and how powerful those words are.
Yeah.
And so, yes, self-care has always been really important to me. I think like a light bulb went off like my freshman year of college. Like the brother of one of my dear friends was like, he got me into running, into working out, and it just became more of a part of my life. And so by the time my son was born, I became pregnant when I was 29, and he was born when I was 30. And when I became pregnant, I got my law degree from University of Kentucky. With my ex-husband, we moved up to the Cleveland, Ohio area. So I had to retake a bar exam a second time.
Oh, geez.
All of our family was in Kentucky.
Oh,
all
wow.
my peers and my law school friends, that would be a support, were practicing mostly in Kentucky and Indiana. And so I had nothing. And my ex-husband was doing his residency at the Cleveland Clinic. So I had like a roof over my head and I was taken care of, but I didn't have him as a physical person there to assist me as I opened this business, and I was pregnant. So I just had to develop my own tribe. There weren't any work-life balance and harmony coaches back then. That wasn't in reality.
No.
And So I just had to sort of like go by the seat of my pants. But I guess, and I got a lot of flack back because, back then I was a runner. Now I do yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I always prioritized, maybe because I would internalize stress a lot. I just needed an outlet, and that kind of exercise and those endorphins were just such a great outlet for me. um, I did something. So I ended up like finding a place that was like a big workout club that had babysitters for the kids and some other women that had young kids and a couple of guys I really liked too. And we would just go out for runs together or we work out, do some weights in the gym. But it was like we were, I found a group of like-minded souls to support me and I supported them because it's not easy being a
No,
working parent at
no,
all.
no.
And so, the kids would play together. They'd be okay. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they wouldn't, but, life goes on. But sometimes that's really a nice way to do it. If we had younger kids to find ways
Yeah.
to, have friends or even good acquaintances, which is what they were, that we had a common interest. We could
Mm-hmm.
give this to each other together,
Yeah.
maybe commiserate a little bit, let off some steam, and then be better parents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you point that out of one, to choose and not try. And because that is so important. And it's like, and that saying yes to yourself and choosing yourself and knowing you're worthy and valuable of that time. I relate to the running piece. I ran for years. I ran competitively in high school, a little bit in college, ran half marathons when my kids were little, when I was in my 30s. My hips finally started screaming at me in my early 40s. And I've switched modes, but I understand the power of that just releasing it, even though I wasn't tending to other parts intentionally necessarily, there was still a relief and a physical relief and a movement of things through. And I just took that time to clear my head and have that space by myself. But you got to value yourself and your time enough to be willing to do that, but doing it in community with other people that will hold you accountable, expect to see you there, you expect to see them there, so you can hold each other accountable as well. But there's so much power in that, and that you were able to grab onto that in such a early time. That's so important, and thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. How did that evolve from there? Like, you understood that early on, but you've moved into since then really helping other women and other men too, but especially you really have a heart for working moms and working women in this space. So how did you go from thinking, okay, I figured this out for myself and I know what's important for me, I think I can help others with that too?
Well, I think it's really important for people to understand. I'm a coach and a mentor, so there's a
Yeah.
difference. And as a coach, and I do this as a mentor too, what I've learned through coaching and mentoring, because I have like a diploma in coaching and mentoring and also a diploma in transformational holistic counseling from Australia. I can't practice in the US, but I wanted to have those skills and
Mm.
abilities. And I'm also like a certified meditation facilitator. I got all that while I was still practicing law in my law firm.
Wow.
I just had this, well, there was a reason because
Yeah.
law school does not teach you how to listen. And I was like a negotiator in my second law firm, and I was a marketer. And it's really important to know how to actually listen to people so they feel heard, understood, and there's that connection, not from a manipulative sort of place, but from an authentic place. And I just realized I need these skills. And I
Mm.
wasn't really thinking at that time I was going to leave the law and go into coaching and mentoring. I just felt like I really need an upgrade here.
Oh,
And
wow.
so there is a big difference between coaching and mentoring and what I offer to people, because coaching is like, I know that like you have all the answers inside of you if you're my client as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that So I'm going to be asking you powerful questions. I'm going to be reflecting things back that I've heard. I'm going to be noticing your body language, the words that you use, maybe asking you meanings. I might have an intuition that I share with you, but I'm always handing things back to you. And you're
Mm.
deciding as a client in a coaching situation what to do with it.
That's really
Um,
empowering.
it's very empowering because you feel like a pretty self-empowered person too. And I know personally that I do want to evolve and move forward, but someone pointing their finger and telling me what I have to do, doesn't work very well with me.
No.
And so to be with someone and to hold this huge judgment-free, unconditionally loving space for them where they have the opportunity to be explored and heard, but they are in the driver's seat, can be a very new experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's like my pleasure to provide that experience, but I know that whatever they come up with or whatever they get to in each coaching conversation is much better than anything I could tell them.
Yeah, because I think once we know how to tap into ourselves and listen to ourselves and trust ourselves, no one knows us better than us. Sometimes we just need that reminder, that freedom, a few tools to access that. So I love that empowering piece that you use. And also, it's so interesting the different degrees that are out there, especially things like lawyers and doctors that are these high level, high stakes positions where you're helping people in serious need many times, how important it is to be able to listen, but yet all of us can identify in our lives, most likely, maybe not, but I would say most people can identify in their lives a health practitioner, a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer that was not a good listener. They had all the answers, answers in quotes, but they had no idea who had to listen to what people actually needed, which is the most, how can you help people properly if you don't know how to listen? So I think that's so interesting that one, you had the intuition and understanding it was necessary, but two, you had to go find that somewhere else. I think that is really speaks a lot to what's happening in so many of these spaces where they educate you on the science and the practices and the resources and the laws and rules, but they don't necessarily tap into those what's the word I'm looking for? Those non-scientific skills. There's a word. I'm just not grabbing it right.
That's all right. Words and me don't always find each other either.
But yeah, you're not they talk a lot about, that liberal arts education. Well, that liberal arts education is going to talk about arts and humanities and teach you how to communicate and relate to people. And if
Right.
you can't communicate and relate to people, then so I think it's so interesting, that process, but that you were willing to do that and has led you to, since then, you just never know where these things that you tap into are going to take you on this journey that we're on.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give myself the whole credit. I have some really cool friends. I believe that, like-minded people sort of gravitate to each other.
Yeah.
And so one of my dear friends got a diploma in coaching and mentoring, loved it, was very successful with it, and just really felt like it's great, but there's no heart there. They really don't teach you that. They talk about it from the head, but they don't really give you that expansive feeling of just being held and understood, and that you're in the space where you can share anything and it's confidential. I mean, there's no confidential laws with being a coach, but I just don't take notes. There's nothing you can find. Any notes I take, I rip up afterwards. I just use it to help me during the coaching conversation so that, my clients are protected. But I was really lucky with that. And then I had another friend who became a certified counselor, and she felt the same thing. And so both of them offered those, got registered, were able to offer these diplomas, and they were kind of like nudging me. This would be really good for you, Arlene. And I would have to tell you that I did have my head up a little bit of a dark place for a while. I thought I was way too good for that. I had a degree from Emory University, and I had a law degree, and like I was hot stuff or something. I didn't need anything else. But they, after about 3 years of really looking at myself, I'm like, what's being reflected back to me here? And best thing I ever did. Best thing I ever did.
Yeah. Well, it goes to show, academia is an interesting place. My husband's worked in higher ed academia his whole career. So it's an interesting space because Emory is an excellent school, like a really, really, really high level academic institution. And you take that with a law degree, not to mention the money you spent and time you put into that. I can understand, especially at a young age when you come out, do you feel like, based on these elite places I've been and this money that I've spent and time that I've invested, I should have all the tools. And sometimes life will like, oh, but wait a minute, there's more. So,
Right.
always,
Well, that's a very
remember to
nice
come
way to
back.
say that to me.
But I think it happens a lot, though. I think it happens a lot. And that's not uncommon, but continuing to be a learner. I mean, I think that's the most
Yeah.
important thing we can do. And listening and being a good listener and being listened to, that is all part of being heard, about our being valued. I mean, supporting each other in community. There's so much value in that.
It's tremendous because most people, if you're talking to them, all they're doing is thinking about what they're going to say next. If you really hold that space of, I have no clue where this conversation is going to go, but I'm shelving anything that's about me in my life. It's over there, and I'm going to just be here with you, and I'm going to be the best coach or best mentor that I can be. It can be like you can feel it. And I have felt it, as when I'm coached or when I'm mentored, and I think it's one of the most incredible spaces that we can give to people.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to do that much. A lot of that, you need the skills, but the being there like that in itself is transformational, I think, for us as the facilitators and for the people that we're with.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in learning to be present and learning to be mindful in moments. Absolutely. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But before we do that, talk to me about confidently setting boundaries with your time, with, you talked about earlier, choosing. When we choose, that means we're setting a boundary on our time that we're going to give to ourselves, that we're going to allow space, that we're going to say no to some things so we can say yes to some other things. Talk to me about, you seem to understand that pretty early on. I'm going to make a space for this. Is that something that's come naturally to you, or talk to me about your journey with that?
No, not naturally. I mean, when I first started practicing law, I really had to learn the hard way. I didn't end up I was there for 12 years, but I didn't have the boundary skills and other skills to handle it. I mean, I came from a middle class suburb in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was a divorce attorney. That's what I learned when I got out of the practice of law. You really have to learn from other attorneys. And when I went out on my own, there was divorce and child custody. And I got appointed sometimes by the domestic relations court to be a guardian ad litem representing children, when the parents were, had drug or alcohol or other problems. And they didn't want either one to be the primary custodian. And so I didn't have clear, strong boundaries in the early part of my law practice. And I was really affected by the negativity in the profession, by the judges, by how other attorneys behaved and were allowed to behave and get away with it by the judges. And it sort of really bowled me over. And my journey of beginning to work with all this kind of more spiritual stuff actually was when I got divorced when my son was almost 3. He developed ADHD pretty severely, and I went on a journey to heal him. As his mom. And I think the universe was there to help me heal myself. So I did, I think in having clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries with a child, or if you have children, to me has been the biggest learning experience. Because with him, for years, I wanted to make sure he didn't fail at anything. He didn't have to have those experiences I did. And what I learned in the process is that he came on this planet just like I did to learn certain skills and abilities and lessons. And if I didn't let him fail, he was not going to be able to make it in the world. And I had to learn to step back. And that was the hardest thing I ever did as a mom. But I did it because I knew in my heart of hearts that what I was doing was not okay. It was really actually arrogant. It was trying to make my life easier. But in the meantime, he needed to learn that he had to stand up for himself, take care of himself. And if he failed, how to pick himself back up. And so a lot of my lessons in learning how to set those clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries was from our interactions and the pain of letting all that stuff go. It was the best thing I ever did, but as a parent, it was not easy.
Yeah, no, it is. I think that's so normal for us as parents. I've got 3 grown daughters now, but that learning to you gotta let them learn how to fly, or if they're gonna have any chance, they've got to understand what consequences are, where you're there to kind of guide them through. Okay, this happened. How are we going to respond now? What are some, tools and resources? But it's hard. You want to protect them from everything, and especially when they're dealing with something hard already. I think that instinct goes into play even more. But the best thing we can do for them is actually model, this is how we, speak up for ourselves. This is how we take care of ourselves. I'm going to take care of myself right now. I want you to know that that's okay, so that when you're an adult, you'll feel emboldened to do that as well. I mean, it's you look back on it, you're like, yeah, that was the right thing. But in the moment, it is very difficult. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important that we own that.
Yeah, I didn't really say it in those words to him at the time, but he's really I have two ex-husbands. With my second one, they're really, really close. And so he knows he can call us anytime, and he doesn't live that far away from us.
Yeah.
And so it's only later in his life, like in his 30s, when he's been coming back and asking me like for money when he's doing really well financially, or, he wanted to have something in mind. I'm like, no, I'm really going to say no now, just no explanation. And he just sort of looks at me like, because he knows that he can do it himself. But sometimes it's just funny. As an adult, he still sort of tests those waters.
Yeah.
And I just have to laugh. It's like, no, you're a grown-up man now. You can handle this. And he can. He's very successful.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of him. But it's funny. The mothers and sons, I don't know. I'm sure mothers and daughters have their stuff too. But
yeah, no, they do. And I thank you for those examples, because what I've learned too is parenting adult children is a whole new avenue of figuring out how to show up, when to pull back, when to be there. I mean, it is a whole new, and we, with us, we've been like, okay, this one needs us this way. This one needs us this way. This one needs us this way. And we even have to have different kinds of boundaries with each of them, because based on what they ask and what they need and what season they're in, because it's a whole different ball game. So thank you for all of that, because I think sometimes we can feel really lonely and isolated when we're trying to make these decisions for ourselves and figure out what's best. And no, we all got to figure it out. We've all got to take this journey, and you're not alone in this as you figure this out too. And there's resources out there to help you and support you. All right. Taking care of our emotional health as much as our physical health, our mental health. So much of what you do is that. So talk to me about your journey in making all of those connections and how these feed off of each other and the importance there is to tending to them. And you use a lot of different modalities within this, but talk to me about your journey and learning about
that. Well, I've been in a mentoring group for a very long time, and that's been very, very helpful. So I always have this group of like-minded souls that I can come together with. And I really recommend that for everybody, because it's really being the lone wolf and trying to do it by ourselves in the world. I think it's a really rough road, and I don't think it works that well. No. But if we come together with a group of like-minded souls, it can be friends in our community, friends we find online because we have a common interest. And as long as it's a positive and uplifting experience and not some place where people just come to complain and moan and how horrible their life is, because then we're focusing on what we don't want to have in our lives. Let's not do that. It can be really, really helpful. And it can help us to move forward, especially where we hear, well, this person did this and this person did that. And we know that we're not alone, so we don't have to get the answers from them, but just know we're not alone. And that's what's been a real help for me, just to have some mentoring groups that I'm a part of, where I know that no matter what I'm going through, I'm not alone. And another thing that I really learned through this and just in my own experience, and I see it in a lot of people that I work with, is that there's this thing out there in humanity that I'm selfish and I should feel guilty if I love myself, God forbid, and I fill up my own cup with love. And to me, that just, if you really step back, it's so counterintuitive, if I could put, so that's a nice word I can come up
That's
with.
Exactly what it is. Yep.
And the thing is that when we fill ourselves up with love and we share the overflow of that love with other people, we're not going to go through the silly cycle where we're, and I'm not judging it. It just, it just seems like it is a silly cycle where it's not helpful. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm giving and giving and giving and giving. My cup is run dry. Now I'm getting frustrated and angry. Maybe I lash out at somebody. Then I feel guilty and horrible about myself for doing that. And then I go back into being someone who overgives, who's a doormat, and feels totally drained and doesn't have anything to give. So when we go through that cycle, we're hurting both ourselves and the other people. If we're filling ourselves up with love, we don't really need anything from the other people that we're loving.
Yeah.
and becoming this a whole person. And that changes everything.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I found to do this is that I feel very strongly, as a matter of fact, that we all have these skills where if a friend of ours is telling us all the things that are going wrong in their life, but it's us talking, this is our stuff, but we're
Yeah.
hearing it from a friend. We would know how to champion them. We would know how to support them. We would know what to say to them. We would encourage them. We would say we love them or are there for them. And if they really had their head up a dark place, we give them some tough love in the best way we could. So we already have those skills. We don't have to learn them from anywhere else. We just have to give ourselves permission to turn around and give that to ourselves. No matter how uncomfortable it feels, practice makes permanent. And the more we do that, the more we acknowledge ourselves for every little small step we take forward with filling ourselves up with self-care and self-love, the easier it becomes, the more natural it is for us.
Absolutely. It's that retraining your nervous system, because we start getting scripts, especially as little girls, about how we're supposed to show up and be nice and take everybody else first. Otherwise, putting yourself first is selfish. And you're exactly, I've said this before too. It is counterintuitive. Nobody wins when we show up irritable, tired, feeling like a martyr. Then we go into codependency and enmeshment to try to find our value through affirmation there. And it's a terrible cycle to be in, that nobody wins, where if we actually are told from the get-go, take good care of yourself so that you can show up refreshed and authentic and whole and be the healthiest version of yourself for you and everybody else around you. Your mood is different. You feel refreshed. You feel rejuvenated. And you're surrounding yourself with people that value that as well. You talk about finding your tribe. You're going to draw in and attract those kinds of people with that kind of energy that want the best for you. But there's so many impacts on our mental, emotional, physical health when we don't put those things into play, and it's a trickle down effect. And if we just can address it up front and get rid of that idea, but yeah, you've got to keep practicing it, because it's not the first thing we're taught. And so we have to train our brain, our nervous system, to be like, no. We're going to do this now. This is what's actually healthy and best for me, and stay with it. Keep choosing that, and trust our inner knowing. We're also told not to trust ourselves when we're very young, especially as little girls and women, and learning that those cues to let us know what we need are there to help us. Our bodies aren't against us. They're for us. They're just trying to give us wisdom and insight to what it is we need. So viewing it from that aspect will help us to make sure we're feeding all the parts of us that need attention.
Yeah. And I'd like to add something to that, because that can feel like a lot to do by ourselves. And it
Yeah,
can also feel like a lot just to do with like-minded people. But there's another way we can do it that can be maybe easier and more supportive and not like a red flag for other people. Like where they're like, what
sure.
are you doing? And that's like, let's say you've always wanted to learn how to throw pottery, or you'd like to learn how to paint or draw, or
Mm-hmm.
you want to learn how to play the guitar, or there's something musical, or you like to garden, maybe there's a garden club. Maybe there's got to be some group of people that like to do something that you would like to learn or already like to do. You're just coming together with them. And maybe it's once a week and you're enjoying that activity together. That's going to fill you up with love. You're doing
Yeah.
something you love and enjoy, but it's not going to be like a little red flag for everybody that you're different, but you're finding a way, that is an easier way than just, how do I do this by myself? Or even if I'm on the group,
Yeah.
if we don't have like someone that's really there all the time helping us, it's a really beautiful way to begin to give that to ourselves. It doesn't feel so daunting.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at that. That's a great, and I talk about it, and we'll talk about, to find those activities that nourish you. What is that thing that lights you up? What's that thing that you haven't engaged with in a while, but brings you a lot of energy? And I think, and taking the pressure off of it being something, and just go do something you enjoy, rather than,
Right.
I've got to go do this and it's supposed to get me this result. Just find those things that,
Right.
and taking the pressure off that too. That's a really good point. Thank you for that. All right. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. We are the say sorry champions of the world so many times. And it's like, really feeling empowered to show up as our authentic selves and bring other women along with us. Talk to me about your journey with that.
I think the best thing that we can do, starting as, someone who's been through a life, we all have been through trials and tribulations and challenges and ups and downs moments, um, is that when we sort of get something like what we're talking about, we both sort of get this, we can hold a space and model that for others. And also it's just like, we can sort of like shout it out in a way energetically. This is so amazing when I practice this, when I love myself, through the arts that I do, through the music I do, through the yoga that I do, which is what I do now. I show myself, I love myself. I'm with this lovely community, and it's so amazing. And then when we sort of shout that out to the ethers, it's like other people in the whole world can feel it and find it when they're ready for it, when they're they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And it'll be like in that kind of lower ether area of thoughts and feelings of humanity. And there'll be new things for people to grab onto, to go, oh, wow, I could learn to play the guitar. I already played. Wouldn't it be fun to be in a group of people who just sort of played around with the guitar together every week, whatever it is. And that would really light my heart up. And that would be so much fun. And you find a group, you just look around and Craigslist or whatever it is, or you ask around to some friends, and when we model the behaviors that when we learn stuff and we sort of like shout it out to the universe, this is so cool. This is so amazing. You've got to try this. That can really help people. Every time we learn something, every time we have one of those kind of experiences. I mean, we all have little experiences of filling our heart up with love every single day.
Yeah.
Maybe we just have this really cool 30-second conversation with a checkout lady at the grocery store. Or with a friend, or with just a little passing thing. And just like, oh, that was nice. And if we really acknowledge that and appreciate that and feel it, we're helping other people to ground and experience that as well, especially when we're like, wow, that was really cool. I'm not going to forget this. And we acknowledge ourselves for being fully present in that moment, recognizing it and enjoying it.
Yeah, really good stuff there. Thank you so much. And I think too, when people see us living that way, they also want to know, what are you doing? I mean, because it comes off of us, the way our aura, the way we carry ourselves, our mood. That's also attractive to people as well, I think. But I love that talking to, that sharing with people and being open with people. And letting them know, like, you can make those choices too. And, let me know if you'd like some resources, or have you thought about this? I mean, I just love the way you approach that. Thank you so much for that. All right. The importance of setting and coming back to your why and your values in what you choose to do and who you choose to surround yourself with, who you decide to work with. Talk to me about, the place and the part that they play in helping you decipher those things.
I just really feel like it's so important to be flexible and adaptable. And that what I endeavor to practice is always to greet myself anew every day and every moment, and the people that I'm seeing every day and every moment. Because you're one way right now, but if I assume you're going to be the same way the next time I meet you, then I'm sort of putting you in a box. And if I always assume that I'm going to be one way, because this is the way I am now, that I'm putting myself in a box. And so I think it's really important to just drop a lot of expectations, which are judgments, and let our values, we do have core values, but I really think that a lot of it can just flow. Like I gave you authenticity, compassionate, courageous, and loyal. Tomorrow I might choose something else. I might choose like unconditional love, worthiness, calm assurance, and I don't know, something else would come to me, some other sacred quality. Because we have all those sacred qualities available to us, we can embody them all. And so I really feel it's important to go with the flow and to listen where I get myself in most trouble. If I have this feeling like, don't do this, Arlene, and I sort of override it. And then I have to go through this whole thing of living through the consequences of it. I'm like, I knew it from the beginning. I didn't listen. How many times am I going to do that? But don't beat it. It's not important. We don't want to beat ourselves up for that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another mistake. This is an opportunity to learn and grow. But, when we listen to our own hearts, knowing when we listen to our intuition, even if the head is saying, but you've got to do this, step back. And sometimes the best thing to do is just say, I'm not going to make a decision for 24, 48 hours. I'm just going to let things flow a little bit, because sometimes we get into urgency, like we have to do something now.
Yeah. I was talking to a guest yesterday about the power of the pause, and taking a moment is so important. Another guest that I had on a couple seasons ago, she has that like kind of unwritten rule in her life where she says yes or no to nothing. She's like, give me some time to think about it. And she, in her head, gives herself a minimum 24 hours to consider, go back, think on it. How's it sitting with me? What's my calendar look like? What other commitments have I made? So yeah, that importance of, and I love what you said about not putting people in boxes, because we get this list, and it's from society, from culture, from a very young age, of what is expected, how we'll show up in the world versus, what's actually true of us, and that allows us to be authentically. And that, which really goes nice into, talk to me about living out of your own expectations versus others. You have done that. You are doing that. You have learned through life and processes and journeys and mistakes to do that. And you also really are passionate about supporting other, women and people with that. So talk to me about, and also communicate. I think the other part about expectations is, living out of our own, figuring out who we authentically are, which our values and can really help inform. But then we got to communicate them too. We can't assume that people just know. And if we don't want them to define us a certain way, then we have to no. Actually, my expectation for this is actually that. But talk to me about what you've learned about expectations.
Well, I don't really like the word. I mean, I guess I should word clear, because everyone uses it in a different way. Because for me, expectations are judgments and things that kind of like put us in a little, and I like to notice when I'm having expectations and maybe reframe it and do it in a different way. So it just feels to me that we get ourselves in trouble when we try to think everything out. We make pros and con lists. We're all in our head. We go around and around and around in circles, like a little hamster on a wheel, running really fast and getting nowhere. If we stop and breathe and we ground, I like to ground, I pretend like I'm a tree. There's roots of light from my heart down my body, out my feet, into the heart of the planet. So I'm connected heart to heart with her, and I'm really fully present here now, and all the way up to source. So there's this lovely connection, and really be fully present here now in my heart, and notice if I'm contracting, and allow myself to expand out. So there's plenty of room for making decisions and moving forward, and then really, feel into, what would love to now? How may I best serve? And sometimes there's not a definitive yes or no. And sometimes what we just have to do is this feels like the best thing right now. And I always visualize it as we've gotten so far in our life and we're standing on the top of a cliff, and there's these beautiful skies out there, but it looks like if we step off a cliff, we're going to fall into the abyss. But I feel, I don't know, whatever the way you want to say it, spirit, God, the universe said, if I take a step forward, we have to do the work on the ground. If I take a step forward, all I have to do is take one step. How does that feel? Spirit gets underneath me. I'm being held. And then I can feel into that. And then what's the next step from there? And if I need to maybe vary it a little bit, I will do that. But I don't have to. I stopped trying to figure everything out. Yes, I do have goals of things I'm working on.
Sure.
But within that, I really feel that when we have that adaptability and flexibility, and we don't put that pressure on ourselves that I have to know my 6 month, my 1 year, my 5-year plan of how I'm going to be different and what I'm going to do. And I don't know, it's like,
yeah. And it can be really restricting when you try to tie yourself into a plan, and life is nuanced and things happen that we don't see coming. And so if we get so locked into something, it leaves no room to adapt. When we have to be adaptable and give ourselves the space so that we're not frozen when that unexpected thing comes, because we're so locked into this one way of being.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we might have like those horse blinders on that this is the only way forward, when all these other opportunities are coming there that are really like, that's what I like to call my business is dual consultancy, because they're all different sides of
Mm.
the diamond, but they all work together to form that beautiful jewel,
Yeah.
or that beautiful crystal or stone or whatever it is. And so it might be an amazing opportunity that's just another part of the jewel of the overall experience that we're having. And it's perfectly within what we're seeking to be more of and to accomplish in our lives. And if we have those blinders on, it can only be one way, then we've missed a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That was so good. All right. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves, all those parts of us, all those pieces that make up who we are. Some we love, some we don't, decisions we wish we wouldn't have made, just, all those things. I really feel like to get to a place of peace and contentment, really knowing your value, you've got to find a way to come to grips with all of that in a very non-judgmental way. And something I've learned over the last 5 years, especially when I really got serious about getting okay with my layers, was being curious rather than judgmental. It enables me to be kinder to myself, which then enables me to be kinder and less judgmental of others as well. So talk to me about your layers journey and how that's felt for you.
Well, I want to acknowledge you because curiosity is just a beautiful sacred quality. Because when we're curious, you're right. I wonder, we're wondering and we're curious. It helps us to allow all that judgment to fall away. And that's a great thing for all of your audience to know and to work with. That's a beautiful sacred quality.
Thank
I
you.
sort of work with acceptance. Like I love and accept myself as I am right here, right now, warts and all. I know
Mm-hmm.
there's some ugly bits under there. I know there's some beautiful shiny bits. And I'm choosing not to judge it. And
Mm-hmm.
and basically that's a part of saying that all the mistakes I've made are just opportunities to learn and grow, and that we can play with them on a daily basis. If we've made a humding or even a small mistake, it's like, okay, I made this mistake. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. How could I do that differently
Yeah.
next time? Something, because it maybe not the exact same thing, but since we didn't learn from it, we have more learning there. The situation will come up again, so we
Mm-hmm.
can visualize and feel ourselves like, if something similar comes up again, how could I handle it from a more expansive, loving space, and really
Yeah.
feel and visualize it now, and even go to sleep with that visualization, so it'll work with us in the
Mm.
dream state. And then when we have something similar come up again, we have a toolkit that we can use. It might be too happening too fast to think about it, but we already have it like in our hearts. And
Yeah.
if we make that a practice, then it's more of a fast track to stop judging ourselves for all those mistakes. We can't go back and change the past, but we can use it as a learning tool for the future. And the greatest inventors, the people that did the most amazing things on this planet throughout all time and everything beyond even what was in recorded history, they've made more mistakes. They've had more failures. They've fallen on their face more times than we have even tried. And they had a different attitude about it. And that's the
Yeah.
attitude that I'm talking about. And your curiosity and wonder is another facet of that attitude.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it keeps us from living in that fear space too, that fear of seeing things as opportunities rather than failures. I mean, failure as a word, I think it gets thrown around in a way that it's like, okay, was it a failure or was it just a step in the direction that I needed to go through to get to the space I'm in now? So I really think we even have to reframe the way we think about that word and and how we handle that and look at that.
Yeah, and a way that I love it is that it's like a mentor, someone you can hear things thousands of times, and
Hmm.
then someone says it a little bit differently, and you no longer get it in your head, you get it in the heart, and the penny drops. And so
Hmm.
maybe another way to look at it is that I came in this lifetime to learn certain things, and
Yeah.
so I'm going to have challenges and obstacles and things that don't feel pleasant, and I can either push them away or and do it kicking and screaming and throwing a little tantrum on the ground like I'm three, or I can sort of begin to handle it the way we've been talking about. And it's not always easy. We're going to fall on our face and forget.
Yeah.
And when we it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. But what I like to also tell myself is that that's not who I am.
Mm.
I'm a soul, I'm a spirit having a human experience.
Yeah.
My thoughts, my feelings, those are not who I am. And what we can also tell ourselves is, well, that's not like me. That's not like me. I'll do better the next time. Or we can tell ourselves, that's more like me. I'll have more of that. So we're working sort of with that positive affirmation, law of attraction stuff without taking out what we used to do in older religions, like those balls,
Yes.
and you have this bloody back, and you're suffering to be holy, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a better way to do it.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I really like the way you laid that out, that it was really good. And I think it just, again, it takes away that fear piece, and because fear can be such a restrictive thing for us, and keep us stuck in spaces. But when we can approach it with that way, it just creates a lot more freedom for us.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
just a lot more freedom. All right. In living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, which you do, you have done, you do, you've it's evident in our discussion today, in your life's work. Talk to me about how that's impacted your relationship with yourself, as well as your relationship with other people. You are very cognitive of the power of community and connecting with those that are like-minded and support and love us. So talk to me about how that you've evolved into that. That's something that you have a very clear understanding of.
Well, I think there's some synchronicity in the universe. I went to this, I was looking for a long time. It felt like a long time to me. And I ended up going to this conference in Mount Shasta and wandering around in this cute little store. And I opened this drawer, and in it was this like flyer of this mentoring group that I'm a part of, that I've been a part of for years. And so I just sort of like, oh, this seems cool. And I ended up just like heart singing moment, fell into it. But I had a lot of, it's really interesting. When I was still practicing law in Cleveland, Ohio, I was sharing a space with another attorney, and I'm never there at night, but my ex-husband had our son, and I had some work to do. So I came in the office, it was like 7:00. No one was there. I got this phone call. And this woman became like my best friend. And anyway, she had no money, but she was very much like my first spiritual teacher. And didn't have attachments. She was an astrologer, but she didn't do it the way most people did it. She did it so that we could step into more of our own knowing and be more of our best selves. And so I took a lot of free readings from her in exchange for just getting a dissolution from a husband that had been gone for years because she wanted to remarry. It was a really pretty easy thing. And I just felt like she was like a blessing that sort of fell in my life. And, somehow I was there, and she made the phone call, and I picked up the phone, and we have those moments of just beautiful synchronicity if we're open to them, that help us and we take advantage of them just to step forward. And I am really grateful for the ones that I've had in my life. And I know that we all have them. And I'm sure I've missed a bunch of them, but I'm grateful for the ones I actually took advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. And the impact that those relationships have. And I think too, though, that was a great example of there was an exchange. And through that exchange, you found ways to work together, and that created this long-term connection. And I think that's so beautiful too, what's possible and what can unfold out of that. You seem to have a really strong, like, accountable inner confidence. Like, you own what you've done and the mistakes, but also are very confident moving forward. When do you feel like you got to that space of just being able to be present like that?
Well, that's very kind of you. I always feel like I'm a work in progress. I think if people say that they get there and they're like, they're like really, really full of themselves, it's like, whoa, that's the kind of person like, thank you very much, but no thank you. So yes, I have made a lot of progress, and I'm very grateful for it, for the coaches and the mentors that I've had to help me move forward, because I know I couldn't have gotten this far in this life by myself. And just to have the knowing that I needed to connect and work with these people and these groups. So, but I don't ever feel like I've gotten there, and there's always moments where I make a mistake and I have to backtrack and really learn from that mistake. Less and less to the school of hard knocks, but it still comes knocking every now and then. There's it's not like I'm like made it somewhere. So I'm grateful for how far I've come. I know that I'm always a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too that having that confident humility, and I think that's a thing that we don't talk about enough. Confidence, humility is a really beautiful thing. It's like, I own who I am. I'm authentic. This is who I am. And also, I know that I'm continuing to grow. I think that people are drawn to people like that. Because there is a really empowering, empathetic presence about that. It's very comforting to other people. Have you found that to be the case? That you're kind of drawn to other people that carry themselves that way too?
Yeah, the ones that are a few steps ahead of me then say, Arlene, you need to look at this. this part of you is not so pretty. I can remember when I was early in my life, I had a person that was close to me, my family, that every time I saw them, my blood would boil. They would trigger me because I thought they were selfish and arrogant and self-righteous and a know-it-all. And I finally got this message like, don't you think you ought to turn around and look at yourself to see where that's in you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be being triggered. So that can be. It was very humbling, very grateful for that because it helped me to let go of a lot of defensiveness I would have if someone was talking to me and telling me to do stuff that I didn't want to do or share stuff I didn't want to share, to be in a place where I could bring more of a sense of humor or maybe remove myself or just say, hey, I'm not going to talk about that, but not have any reaction.
Yeah.
So I think we get a lot of our lessons from what other people mirror to us. And I'm always on the lookout for that. It helps to keep me humble.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what I felt this year. I don't know what your question was, but that's what came out.
That was perfect. That's exactly what I was done. That was beautiful. And I think, it's interesting whenever I have something I've learned to do, and I have not always done it, but I have learned, especially the last few years, is if a defensiveness is coming up in me, that's a clue there's something going on with me. That isn't, so what's going on there? What's bringing up the defensiveness? Why? Yeah, there's a difference between feeling like anger, righteous anger that motivates you to do something or make a change versus a defensiveness that just puts you on guard. And I've had to learn to get curious about that. Why did that set you off so much? And my husband's actually great. He's like, why did that set you off so much? I feel like, and I will do the same for him. Like, maybe we need to take a closer look at that. But it's a good practice to have in place to step back and keeps you humble, keeps you learning, keeps you aware of we're in process.
But there's always two sides to everything. The other side is sometimes the reason that we get defensive or all this stuff comes up for us is someone is either projecting us or they're trying to suck our energy out or dump in our energy, feel a lot of negativity because our boundaries aren't strong enough.
Yeah.
And so that might be like, I need to remove myself from this situation. I need to recalibrate myself to love. And so it doesn't always have to be that we're triggered. I mean, we could be triggered in that process because it feels like, crap, but it not necessarily within us, except that we allowed our boundaries to drop.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you for that. That was really, that was very intuitive. All right, we're wrapping up here. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Well, yoga definitely nourishes me. I love going up to the hot springs in Colorado. There's some wonderful ones in the mountains. My son, his wife, and my grandson went up there over New Year's Eve, and oh my God, it's wonderful. I love being up high for some reason, just and even with, when it's a little bit warmer out, just taking some time and just saying, okay, I've had it, and just taking a ride up the mountains, and wherever I get out. There's always a Colorado River coming down somewhere that you can just be around. And there's something about being at a higher altitude that just does something for me. So I love being out in nature and connecting with her. So that's a big thing. How many did I have to come up with? Well, yoga and nature and I guess music. There's a lot of times music or just watching someone that just sings something so beautifully in a way that it just really touches your heart. Yeah, that's one thing that really helps me. I guess getting a little bit of a wall. I guess really just taking care of myself.
Oh,
I've
good.
had to modify my diet in recent years to stay healthy, and yeah,
Yeah,
and
me
being with
too.
people that I love is always helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Being surrounded by the people you love and the community and that's good for our health. I don't think we give enough credit to what that does for our health, for the serotonin hormones and all those good things that it brings up in us. Thank you so much for that. And 5 words on how you hope to feel the next 6 months.
5 words: joyful, um, in calm assurance,
Mm.
um, like peaceful, not just regular peace, but like that peace that is beyond all experience, and just like, oh,
Yeah.
and like harmony, like harmonizing things inside of myself,
Mm.
so they're not fighting anymore.
Yeah.
How many words is that?
I think that's 4.
That's 3, 4. What would the last one be? Contentment is just coming up, just because we have
Yeah.
that. It's a choice to be content with where we're at and what we have, and not look outside of ourselves that I want this or I want that, or someone else has blah blah blah. Just to be really content.
Yeah.
It is. I think that's a real gift.
I think so too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for those, Arlene. Tell people where they can find you, follow you, how they can work with you. This will all be on our website at embracinglayers.com on our resources page. Don't worry, listeners, but share with us right now and all the ways that people can work with you. Because I just know from talking to you, you've got so many tools and resources that can be so helpful to so many of our listeners.
Yeah, so you can find me at my website, Jewel, Jewel, like the diamond, consultancy.com. I offer coaching, mentoring, and within mentoring, I offer soul readings, which is where I work with cards, and I do it online as well as in person. But
Okay.
it's another way of heart connecting with people to know what obstacles are there, what challenges are there, what opportunities are there. And I just find this a really heart expanding experience, especially for adults, because the visuals there, the auditories there, the heart stuff is there. So those 3 things are what I offer in terms of services. On my website, I also have some really cool videos that are free about leadership and about being calm and centered. And I have a very large blog where you can get answers to a whole lot of stuff. If you Google Arlene Cohen Miller, Cohen is my middle name. I'm the only person that comes up.
Awesome.
There's a lot of Arlene Millers. There's only one Arlene Cohen Miller. So you'll find all the different places that I am on the internet. And if that resonates with you, great. And you can always contact me. I'm happy to hear from you.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed this conversation and just all that you have learned. I'm just going to think of you as confident humility is the phrasing that comes. And I think that's such a beautiful combination. So thank you for how you show up in the world and how you help others too, and your heart for others to have these tools and resources as well. I think it's so important that when you approach it in such an empowering way, and that's so important, and enables other people to have this within themselves as well. And it just creates more peace and contentment. And heaven knows we could all use more of that.
We sure could. We sure could.
Oh my gosh. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
You bet. Listeners, these resources are available to you. Find some peace and contentment in yourself this week. Sit there and be mindful. Take a pause. Listen to what take those blinders off. We can get going down a road. We get going on our to-do list and all the busy things that we have going on in our lives. Take a moment and just give yourself some chance to breathe and open up to all the different things that might be there for you. And just sit in the calm. Just give yourself time to reset and recalibrate. But we appreciate you being here with us today. Take good care of yourselves and have a great week.